Thank you, Nikki. Good evening, everybody. As Nikki said, my name is Terry and I am the Armed Forces Project Lead for NHS Somerset Integrated Care Board. I'm hopefully going to take you through a few slides which will explain my role and how we are here to support the Armed Forces community of Somerset. So ICB, NHS Somerset ICB signed the Armed Forces Covenant back in 2023 when I first came into post, and that is upholding the Armed Forces Covenant pledge that is in place with the government. The government, it's a promise to the nation to say that we recognise the service and the sacrifice that people have made in the military, and it's our way of acknowledging that and showing the youth that they're really interested in doing the best for our armed forces community. So my remit actually covers quite a large proportion of people. So the armed forces community is made up of the serving population, veterans, reservists, and the partners and children of both serving and veterans, as well as the reservists. In total, that's around 55,000 people in Somerset, which is approximately 9 to 10% of our Somerset population. So you can see that we have a big armed forces community, in fact, one of the largest in the southwest. When I first came into post, just coming up for 2.5 years ago, we had no presence really in the community. We didn't do an awful lot with our armed forces community. And my role was to make sure that we engage with our armed forces, that we understood what mattered to them, not what's the matter with you, but what matters to you, and to then form our services and our provision around that. So my colleague Rebecca came into post shortly after me, and she undertook a 9-month engagement project where she went out and spoke with a variety of people from right across the armed forces community. She visited veterans groups, baby groups, coffee mornings. She went into school and spoke to service children. We spoke to homeless veterans, serving personnel, and in total she did 300 interviews, which all were recorded, and then the results of those analysed and grouped in themes. Many aspects of military life were raised, and this then led us on to formulating a plan of issues that we could address. So we wanted to increase the profile and the visibility of the armed forces within Somerset and show the rest of the community what an important and vital part of our community they actually are. We wanted to make sure that the physical and mental well-being of our armed forces community was put at the heart and the centre of everything we did. And then we wanted to support at points of transition. So that may be leaving the military, it may be starting work in Civvy Street, it may be as people get older, they've been a veteran for a while, and maybe they're going into a full retirement. It might be for serving personnel that have a new baby. It might be moving to the area or moving out of the area. So there's many, many points of transition. I don't know if anyone's got any questions so far. I'll just pause a minute and see if anybody's got any questions. Oh, okay. So one of the first things we did was to commission 2 armed forces hubs within the county. We partnered with 2 local organisations who already had a presence within the armed forces sphere. And one of those was Arc at Egwood, which is an intergenerational land-based day service for people of all ages, needs and abilities. The person who actually set up and run it is a Navy veteran himself, Nigel Bell, and he has another person working there, Sam, who is also a Navy veteran. So Arc at Egwood was a natural choice. They already did some work with members of the armed forces, and they had strong links with RNAS Yeovilton as well. The other ARC is in Taunton, and many of you might know it as Taunton Association for the Homeless, as it was previously known. And they support and enable homeless people in Somerset to maximise their potential. They actually have their own property, Victory House, which is in Eastreach in Taunton, and that has 8 self-contained units specifically for homeless veterans, armed forces veterans. So those two organisations were integral in our work with the armed forces community, and they provided very different organisations, very different atmospheres, but both vitally important. Leading on from that, we have ARC at Egwood in South Somerset, ARC in Taunton. We've found that what we needed within those hubs was armed forces link workers. So they are like social prescribing link workers or caseworkers, whatever you want to call them, but they are specialists in supporting people within the armed forces community with a whole range of issues, problems, queries, questions. So we have John on the left hand side, he is ex-Navy as well. Sam, previously mentioned Sam, he is ex-Navy, and then Samantha on the right, and she is ex-RAF. So between them, they have nearly 50 years of armed forces experience, and they work with a whole range of people from all aspects of the armed forces community to support them with a whole range of issues. They can be one-off supporting phone calls, or they can be more complex cases which require sort of ongoing support. And then leading on from that, we realised that the hubs are not accessible for everybody. Certainly ARC at Egwood is a rural land-based activity centre, and they don't have a particularly regular bus service that goes past there. ARC at Taunton, many people again don't want to visit. They feel they're intruding in somebody's personal sort of house space, so they choose not to visit there as well. So what we did is we set up some outreach services which are linked into locations across the county. They're one-stop shops for anyone who wants to come along if you want a cuppa and a chat, or if you have got a more specific need, you need some advice or you need some help. What we do is we have a wide range of organisations that come along as well. So we have SAFA, RBL, DWP, Centre for Sustainable Energy, lots of different organisations, solicitors that come along, and they are there to support the whole range of things. Our link workers also come along, and myself and my colleague Rebecca come along as well. So hopefully between us we have the ability to work with you, to support you. Last week I did a musculoskeletal referral for somebody who needed some physiotherapy on a bad back caused by military service. She's a veteran now. We've done referrals to Op Courage, which is the mental health support unit. But two gentlemen there, Steve and Popeye, wanted to come for a chat and a cup of coffee. So that's what we're there for. It can help reduce social isolation, or it can help solve a problem, however it works for you. So we currently run these monthly sessions in 4 locations. We are in Highbridge, Bridgewater, Wells and Yeovil. Next month we are starting Wellington and Chard, and then in April we're hoping to bring Minehead online as well. So we'll have 7 locations right across the county. We've worked with our Somerset GPs within Somerset, and we now have 100% of them, that's all 62, accredited as veteran friendly. We go into the surgeries, we do training with the staff, and this is to raise awareness and understanding of the specific needs of the armed forces community and the challenges that they may face with their health. So we were one of the first areas in the whole country to get that 100% accreditation, and we've developed resources and information pages for our GPs so that they're able to direct veterans or serving or families to the most appropriate service for them that will best meet their needs. It's not about jumping the queue, it's not getting priority treatment. However, there are certain services that are specifically for the armed forces community, and it's important that we utilise those in the right way. So we have lots of future plans as well coming up. We're working with our audiology colleagues over at Somerset Foundation Trust Hospitals to see if we can set up a fast track self-referral service for veterans with a previously undiagnosed hearing loss. We know that hearing loss is one of the major problems faced by many veterans, and hence we want to support that service going forward. We're also working with some cancer colleagues, again in Somerset Foundation Trust, to set up a screening programme for mesothelioma or asbestosis. Again, we know that unclad asbestos was a problem primarily in Sea King helicopters, but in a range of other helicopters as well. And although there's no cure for mesothelioma, it would be nice to get a screening programme in so that from 65 years of age or even maybe 60, you have annual checkups, respiratory checkups, chest x-ray to look for early signs of mesothelioma developing. And we then are linked into a trials database, and if there are suitable clinical trials available, you would have the option to sign up for those. We're working with colleagues at SASP, Somerset Activity and Sports Partnership, to develop a programme called Jumpstart, which is working with children and young people from 8 to 16 who have parents or a parent within the serving military. It's like a weekly youth club type service where they will provide a range of sporting activities, and then if children are finding it particularly difficult, maybe they've moved to the area, having a difficult time to adjust, they'll work alongside them on a one-to-one and do coaching and mentoring. We're also setting up some horticultural therapy sessions, and again those will be dotted around the county, so hopefully people wherever you live will be able to access outside green spaces, again maybe just to meet up with like-minded people, have a chat, and engage in something outdoorsy. We're also working with Age UK and supporting them to put in some bids to enable them to recruit in somebody to be an armed forces advocate for older generation. We've just put a bid in with them to Veterans Foundation Trust, and we're hoping that they're successful with that. And we're also working with partners at Young Somerset, again to support young people with serving military families or parents who've recently left the service who may be finding life a bit tough at the moment. So that is all from me. However, I'm more than happy to answer questions. We also have, if you're interested, a section on the NHS Somerset website, which is specifically for the armed forces, and that gives you lots of information, as well as enabling you to contact our armed forces link workers directly if you would like their support. And we also have a brand new Facebook page called NHS Somerset Armed Forces Community that went live last night. Again, we post details of anything up and coming, any events. It's a good way of just following along and joining in with armed forces activities throughout the county. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or if there's anything specific I can support with or help with.
Joe, you've got a question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm part of a Vets Breakfast group, and you guys came and visited, and your contact and information has been brilliant at council meetings and things as well. My question is actually about dentists and dentistry, which is a big problem for a lot of veterans and also for serving forces families to access. You've done obviously a great job with the GPs, but is something similar being done with dentists, and particularly the private dentists, who seem to have a habit of taking on a NHS patient and then dropping them off the list into a vacuum after they've switched to private service? So that was my real question.
Yeah, unfortunately, dentistry is a national problem, as well as obviously a local problem. The dentistry provision has come under the Integrated Care Board in the last few months, so they are working with local dentists in order to try and find a sustainable solution so that people don't end up not having access to dentistry. It is a problem, and I fully acknowledge that I'm trying to convince our dentistry commissioning colleagues that we should certainly prioritise the children of serving military, because they are not getting anywhere near the top of a waiting list, particularly because of their mobile nature. So, you know, I think we're storing up problems for the future, and I agree it is a real problem. I'm on it. I'm trying to work on it. It's not an easy fix, I'm afraid, for people generally. But I do acknowledge that the armed forces community definitely are disadvantaged as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Joe.
However, following on from the previous point about dentistry, I mean, it is a national problem, but particularly as we have some service establishments here with a dental facilities. I've recently moved, or a few years ago, from Cambridgeshire, where the service establishments there, recognising the problems with accessing NHS dentists, offered a service to veterans within the community. And I'm wondering if that initiative has been approached in Somerset.
No, it hasn't, and only because I think that the forces are also struggling to get dentists working for them. I was over at 40 Commando last week and talking to the CO there, and he was saying that they have to share one dentist between about 6 different bases. So I think they are also struggling to recruit and train, or train dentists as well. So I would definitely jump on them if they said that they had a spare dentist. What they did say is that if we could locate a dentist, we could set up, specifically for the children, we could set up in a spare dentist surgery that they have on site. So at the moment, it's not available to veterans, but should it become available, I would definitely pursue it. And thank you for raising that.
Well, thank you for that. The other question I had is that how much do you hear from the local military about the briefing given to those who are about to leave the services about the services available in the civilian community, and what procedures they need to follow in order to be able to access them as efficiently as possible?
So we've had an input on people who are leaving the service and the briefing that they get. We're also working with both the Somerset bases to signpost people into the NHS Somerset webpage, and it has links in there for them to support them into registering with a GP, trying to get on a dentist waiting list. We also work with Step Into Health if people are interested in a career within the health service. But we also work with Pinnacle Housing, who have a social values section of their organisation, which supports people leaving the military with CV writing, interview skills, and things like that. So we do have quite a big input in it, and into the support that's given, certainly if people are staying local to Somerset when they leave the military.
And the final question, if I may, does the Integrated Care Board for Somerset have a member or representative on the Military Covenant Board?
Yes, I'm on the Armed Forces Covenant Board, so I represent the ICB at the Covenant Board.
Well, thank you. That's very reassuring. Thank you very much.
Alison, you've got a question? Alison, I've unmuted you. Have you got a question for Terry? Okay, shall we move on to Sue, who's also got her hand up for a question?
Hello, thanks, Terry. It's not actually a question, it's just something for information. It's just to say that we have very recently been awarded funding at the Balsam Centre from the Armed Forces Covenant for a specific strand of activity, which is to support families who are newly arrived, military families who are newly arrived into the area, and specifically to Wincanton. And that's very much around your sort of remit around transitions. So obviously the moving is a transition, but we can support with you know, education or health or social activity. We can support with parenting, but mainly it's around getting people into the centre and introducing them to others, and sort of setting up peer support. And of course, for those of you who don't know the centre, we have a whole range of health and social services at the centre, but a lot of groups and activities that anybody can come into. But we will be also doing specific groups, as we have been doing, things like cooking for military families, various things that are very much aimed at those military families, and we need them to say what they would like. We're not going to make any assumptions, but part of the project will be around honouring the military calendar. So I just discovered actually today that April is the month for the military child, which I didn't know. So we'll be doing something around that. And volunteering as well. So we're hoping to recruit volunteers from the military community to support others, but also recruit people from the civilian population as well to support the military community to get some integration going. And I'm just about to put an advert in now. We're recruiting for a 2-day-a-week post to run this project, and obviously if we're lucky enough to get somebody with military experience, then I'm sure that will be an asset as well. So perhaps I can put that job out through whatever channels are available, across the ICB or across the military community, as well as where we normally advertise. So just as a bit of a heads up on that, I'm nearly there with it. Should be going out soon, very soon.
I'll message you, Sue, and we'll get something out.
Great.
Yeah, more than happy to support, and fantastic
Thank
news.
you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really good news. Thanks.
So we've had a question in the chat. So Alison says, my mother is a 98-year-old widow living in a care home as a self-funder. My father served in the RAF during the war. Once my mother's money runs out and I have to apply for council funding towards her fees, are there any armed forces charities or organisations I might be able to approach to help with any shortfall between the cost of her care home and the council funding?
We can certainly support any sort of application to a military military charity. The best thing to do would be to go onto the website, the NHS Somerset /Armed Forces website. You'll find the email addresses for the link workers. If you would like to email one of them, they will support you with that. Your mum would also be, if there was a place at the Dunkirk House residential home at Bishop's Lydeard in Taunton, because of the previous military service, if there was a space available, then she would also be entitled to apply to go there as well. But I understand that maybe not what she wants to do moving home. But certainly if you contact one of the link workers, they would be happy to support you in making an application to one of the military charities.
Mr. Lucas, you've got your hand up.
Yes, sorry, something else to raise. I think you'd mentioned about hearing on stage. I did hear that correctly. Is that many years ago there used to be an allowance, a sort of war injury type payment if you had defectively hearing as a result of your service. Well, then that stopped, as it just so happened, just before I left. And the bar went very much higher. Then a few years ago, I think it was only about 8 or 9 years ago, they'd obviously had second thoughts about this. And although not reintroducing the hard of hearing allowance, they introduced a grant for those who met the criteria to receive this grant, which is administered by the Royal British Legion. And the funding comes from the government, but it's managed by the RBL. And they have up to £5,000 to give to each person for a pair of really first-class hearing aids. Have you got anything to say about that?
Yeah, the RBL have got their hearing aid service. What we've heard recently, anecdotally, is that people have been having difficulty accessing the fund, but we do know it exists. And ours certainly wouldn't be as a competition for that. It would be, it would just be an alternative NHS service.
So
John,
could you say how if people are having difficulty accessing that fund, who should they speak to?
They can approach the RBL locally. We have the contact details for the RBL, and more than happy to let you have the link or to give it to Ella so that she can send out with the recording. I don't have the email address to hand, but you can certainly access the fund. But any concerns you have with your hearing, it's certainly worth approaching your GP first.
Thank you.
Mr. Richards, do you have a question?
No, not a question, more of a backup to what Terry was saying. Just the lady who was asking about her mum in the care home. I'm one of the link workers. Yeah, we can if you ping me an email, you're looking for the John at Arc at Edgewood one, we can put you in contact with the RAF Association. They're normally very good at supporting the family and community. So just shoot an email across and we'll sort that out.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Are there any other questions? Okay. Ella, have we got any more questions in the Q&A?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can see.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. We really hope you've enjoyed today's webinar and found it helpful. And thank you also to Terry for her presentation.